Thank you for joining BSD SpecLink's Expert Insights. My name is Sarah, Strategic Marketing Manager here at BSD SpecLink, and I'll be your moderator today. I've been with BSD SpecLink for the past year, where I've been fortunate to put my passion for building community to work. I'm also a proud member of CSI, Construction Specifications Institute. Now I'd like to turn to today's panelists and allow them to introduce themselves, starting with Greg, Civil and Structural Engineer and BIM Supervisor at Ford. Greg?
Hi, thank you, Sarah. Hi, yes, my name is Greg Gertsen. I am currently a Civil and Structural Engineer and the BIM Supervisor at Ford Land, which is a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company. Ford Land owns and operates approximately 3.2 million square feet of commercial office space in Southeast Michigan. At Ford Land, we also plan, develop, and manage construction projects for research and engineering facilities, manufacturing facilities, corporate facilities, globally for Ford Motor Company. I've been at Ford Land since 2015. Prior to that, I have 22 years of experience as a designer as a structural engineer at firms in Southeast Michigan. I've worked on many different project types, such as healthcare, automotive, manufacturing, educational, commercial, and have used SpecLink, I would say, probably for the last 15 years. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Greg. Now I'd like to introduce Sehine with AECOM. Sehine?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sehine Gizaw. I'm a senior architect with a consultant with AECOM, but stationed at PGCPS public schools. I've been with PGCPS implanted as a consultant for the past 2 years. And ever since I joined, the need for specifications was much greater at the moment. So I immediately researched and got SpecLink on board to the organization, which is PGCPS. I've been using SpecLink for the last maybe 5 years with different capacities when I was working at a private firm as well. I do a lot of schools. We are proud owners of 209 public schools with different capacities of work. We have a master specification, but we also have different categories of renovations from small to large. So we manage the specifications through that, and I'm here. I'm happy to be here and share my expertise and my love for SpecLink at this moment. Thank you, Sarah.
So happy to have you. And last but not least, we have Devon join us from the Port of San Diego. Devon?
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name is Devon Beach. I am the senior engineer at the Port of San Diego. And at the port, we manage 34 miles of natural waterfront around San Diego Bay. And we are comprised of 5 different member cities. We have several cargo and cruise ship terminals, hotels, restaurants, marinas, museums, and 22 public parks that we all manage. And with all the other expert panels here, I am fairly new to SpecLink. I've been using it for just about 2 years now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's dig into it. Our first topic today is collaboration and streamline operations. Now, Greg, I'd love to start with you. So you've been using SpecLink from the early days before it was even SpecLink E. And from what I understand, you actually started off using Word documents. Can you kick us off and discuss, how collaboration has changed over the years and how you've been leveraging that in SpecLink to streamline your operations?
Yeah, certainly. Particularly with SpecLink Cloud, it's so much better to collaborate with outside firms. Internally, just getting everyone set up on SpecLink is easier as well because I don't have to worry about loading software on computers. It's all through a web browser. They just need to get access to a license or with collaboration credits that are available with SpecLink Cloud. Historically, documents have always been done in Word, where I've come from, both in design, when I was a designer, and also as the owner's rep here at Ford Land. And historically, those documents would be residing on either someone's computer or in some shared drive somewhere, not knowing which one is the latest, and inadvertently copied and emailed to someone if they needed to edit or work on a spec. So you never really knew what the original version looked like or what it contained. And it was very difficult to understand sometimes why things were edited and changed over the time. With SpecLink Cloud and SpecLink, that kind of consolidates everything, it organizes everything, it keeps everything in the same location. So you always know what the current spec is, because a master spec can be created. And from that master spec, you then would copy into a project and edit the project spec as needed. So the master is always maintained. And also, just as a sore point that I've always had with Word documents is formatting. Formatting in Word documents was a nightmare to me. I would get a document that would be tabbed and spaced at times, and just trying to get the formats to be the same between different spec sections took a lot of effort. With SpecLink and SpecLink Cloud, that's all done with just a click of the button, selecting which format you want, whether it's a CSI or an Army format, military format, or even your own custom format, which is what we had at Ford originally, but have now adopted going with the CSI formatting. So SpecLink definitely will help in collaboration. I've shared it with my outside consultants that we use, our architect and engineering partners. I've given them, in some cases, a license where they can work on a project directly using that license. And then also with collaboration credits, I can share a project. And when I share a project, I can give them just commenting rights where they can actually comment on a spec and not edit it. And then I can either edit it myself or respond to the comment, or I can give them editing rights when I share a spec, and they can go ahead and rewrite it to what is needed for that project. So the collaboration, especially with the SpecLink Cloud, is way better than it used to be. Even with SpecLink E in the previous versions, it's phenomenal how much better it is, and I'm really excited to use it on projects.
And you touched on an interesting subject of controlling who's able to edit and who's able to comment, because I know that can get a little intimidating when you're sharing those projects with outside firms. Sehine, now being one of those collaborators on those projects, can you speak a little bit to how you and Ron collaborate through PGCPS, especially when it comes to those project-specific specifications?
So thank you. So the way our projects are handled is we don't have actually designers in-house. We sort of monitor the designers that are hired through the procurement process transparently. So we collaborate. So inside our master specifications, we want the state there's a specific types of information that we want for our schools, and so those are really almost proprietary to PGCPS, and so those are incorporated in our specifications that we call master. So those masters are directly translated to the architects so they can make the edits that they need. We also are owners of the Division 0, obviously, and the Division 1, most of the information on Division 1, and then we give them to edit. But a lot of internal coordination happens when we use SpecLink Cloud, and that's what we are using. And so we give that to our in-house designers, in-house planners, and we share that to them, and they make the edits. We have a lot of collaboration meetings. And then that gets into a master. In a few years, in about a year, but we've been planning to streamline it to particular types of projects. For example, we're going to have roof repairs. So what does that look like? It may not be that gigantic master specifications that we have to give them. So we're talking, we haven't made a decision then, but we're talking how to streamline that to just be particularly a roof repair types of specifications. And what does that look like? So we're in that stage at this moment, but we have a master specification, and most of the time that gets translated to the architects, where they give their input and give us back their specifications for the project. And that's how we've been collaborating at the school level.
Wonderful. We actually had a question come in. And again, for our attendees, if at any time you have a question, please look over to the control panel where you have that question window and submit some questions there for our panelists here. With various school district requirements and having a master for each school district, can you speak a little bit to how you manage so many masters?
So I think probably I want to speak on that. I can say a few things about that. So when we decided that we want one master, we definitely are going to do one master. We, like I said, how hazardous waste material is being mitigated for a different school system is going to be proprietary, as in we have our own system. So therefore, that specification section will be a proprietary one that we have to import. And so we also have charter schools. So what does that charter school specification look like? We don't own the charter schools, but we actually manage the capital programs under that. So what does the specifications look like? They look a little different. So we have master specifications for different schools, and it is a tasking, I want to say, but it does work because we keep it separate. What is it? What type of project that we're using? But we only have one school system, so we can, we proudly could say that has been successful for a few projects that we've implemented in the last 2 years now.
Wonderful.
I hope question. Thank you.
Thanks, Sehine. Now, a few weeks ago, we did do a webinar on complicated masters and how to build nested masters with Beth Stroshane of Applied Building Information. And we'll be sure to link that in the follow-up email that you'll receive after this webinar. Devon, anything to add as far as how you and your team are working to collaborate, especially now in this remote world that we're finding ourselves in?
Yeah, being a government agency, a majority of our projects are designed using outside consultants. So we do manage a fairly substantial Division I spec that SpecLink Cloud has definitely allowed us to have consistent Division I specs throughout every project. Prior to using SpecLink Cloud, we were just using a single Word document that took a fair amount of time to kind of formulate and delete paragraphs that didn't pertain to our projects and whatnot. How the Port of San Diego works is our Division I master changes depending on the bid type. We have 3 different bid types depending on the estimated construction costs. And it took a fair amount of time to take our master spec and either add and delete paragraphs to mate those different types of general conditions, so to speak, that were depending on the construction costs. And it took well over a week to go through that, go through each section and delete paragraphs, add paragraphs, and whatnot. SpecLink Cloud, I can create a 15% level Division I spec in less than 30 minutes. and everything's linked and whatnot to depend on the big type and whatnot. So yeah, again, it doesn't allow other engineers to copy projects and reuse them, especially if there was an update to the master spec. You can only create projects by using the one master spec. So we're finding that every project has consistent Division I specs moving forward.
Wonderful. It's almost, like that game of telephone, having so many disparate systems and trying to have one communicate to the next, having that single pane of glass where everything is under one roof. I know really makes things a little more seamless and certainly cuts down those frustrations. Now, our next topic here, how to maximize and future-proof your masters. Now, Sehine, I know we discussed the other day, how to modernize these schools, for those 5-year periods. Can you speak a little bit to this and the reports that you generate, the tags that you leverage in order for those division by division, the project specific updates that you need to make?
Yes. So that's the one I touched on earlier. It's if I give some of the projects, I don't want to say majority of the projects, and then so I speak because I've been implanted in PGCPS for a while. So when I say we, it's going to be PGCPS, but also AECOM is in the mix. Just want to put that in the kind of context as well. So when we look at the projects are at different capacities, and most of them have, I think some of our panelists have touched on it, but they're bid and they're job on contracts type of projects. So they're very specific. It is a roof repair. So do I want to give them this whole master spec and say, hey, you have to do this, or should I just streamline it to say, this is what I want you to work on. This is my roof specs. And that gives us an opportunity to give it internally to different aspects of our internal reviewers and stakeholders, I want to say, to give them the input. So that becomes a very specialized type of specification. And that's what we like that. We like that direction. Then we're not going to be inundating them with different types of mechanical roof systems. Yes, of course, attachments are very critical in a roof system, HVAC attachments. But so those things have to be incorporated, and we incorporate them very clearly. And so we go specific. And when the capital program budgets come out, there are specific categories that they come out on, right? So healthy schools is one of them. The other one is just a regular sustainability improvement is another. And the other one would be ADA improvement. So what does that require? So ADA improvement could be a very specific type of scenario that we could address, and then bring the attention to the contractor to make sure they pay attention to that, and that helps us too. So that's how we want to streamline it in the future, and by doing that, and the SpecLink is really wonderful. We've bought enough access for our teams to have access so they can edit, and they take their time and edit, and they come back to us, and we collaborate, and we give that particular specification for the job on contractor, right? So that's how we've been trying to work our way. And of course, with that, we also have this big, huge, brand new projects that we're working on. Recently, also, I want to say that the ACF, or alternative construction projects, are in play for Prince George's County Public Schools, where we're trying to build 6 schools all at the same time. This is alternative type of financing. So that requires a master spec. And actually, as we speak, we're refining the specifications to answer what alternative construction financing looks like in responding back to the specifications. So there's a lot of back and forth to make sure that we answer as much question as possible and give them the specifications that really helps them finance this project. So I think I've touched on many different scenarios that we do, but SpecLink has been instrumental in all of this to us.
Thanks, Sehine. Now, Devon, we had a question from the audience. I'd love to pose this one to you. Someone asked us, how do I increase the utilization of my master and decrease at the same time the amount of effort it takes to maintain it? And they added, to have my cake and eat it too. Can you share what Port of San Diego is doing to decrease the amount of effort it takes to maintain those masters?
Yeah, we have one master that's mainly handled through the engineering department. Occasionally, some other departments will chime in and say, hey, we need to update this. And again, it's pretty straightforward. You just go into the master file in SpecLink and you update it. And then every time someone creates a new project, the updates are automatically included. Before we had to update the Word doc and then send an email out to everyone saying, hey, the master spec has been updated for this. Please be sure you grab the right Word file. Again, we're having a lot of engineers start projects by either taking old projects and just copying the master specs over, which doesn't capture any of the revisions and latest updates, or they were just finding other versions of it somewhere and whatnot. And it was just becoming a big mess. I'm trying to keep track of the actual master and trying to keep track of any other latest additions that people had copied and pasted in various areas of their computers. So this definitely streamlined that for sure. Every time someone creates a project, they have to use the master. We don't allow them to copy other projects over. When concerning the master, they're certainly allowed to copy any technical sections that were from other projects and whatnot. But yeah, it definitely streamlines that. And our Division 1s are just consistent through every project. It's a big time saver.
Thanks, Devon. Greg, anything to add to that? How Fordland is maximizing the use of their masters?
Definitely. Yeah, Fordland, we of course have projects that are manufacturing for our automotive side, but also commercial and corporate. Since Fordland is also a developer in the Dearborn area, we want to maintain the vibrant community that the Ford and the Ford employees work in. And so we went down the road of having separate specifications, separate master specifications for the manufacturing side and separate for the commercial, we'll say, side. And it took more effort to maintain 2 sets of masters than just to have one in SpecLink with items you can turn on, paragraphs you can turn on and turn off, or even have selections where you say this is a manufacturing project and everything that's manufacturing related will turn on, and if it's commercial or non-manufacturing, everything that's non-manufacturing will turn on if you select a different box. And that's the route we are definitely heading right now. We don't have it final yet, but we're heading that way. I found that 90% or more of a spec section is really related to both. So if I had to make a change in one, I had to go and change the second one. So that's one way I think to maximize the use of the masters is to think about how you are going to use them for projects, what projects you may have, and maybe think about maybe just having one master with different selections that you can turn on and off for different project types. I think that's going to definitely be a time saver in the future, and I'll also be more accurate too in the future, instead of having specs that may not apply to a certain type of project because you forgot to edit it out or didn't add it in. So yeah, definitely.
Great. We had another question come in from the audience. Is there a way to update your masters in one big update in SpecLink Cloud? Greg, I think this might be a question for you.
Yeah, sure. There's an update feature that, when standards are updated, you can select to update the specifications. And in SpecLink Cloud, it has reference standards that you can just drag and drop into your spec section. So if those specification standards get updated, you just have to hit the update button and it'll update your spec section. Also, you have global terms that are easy to change and modify or add to that, again, you drag and drop into your spec section. So if you want to change a global term, you can just change it and edit it in the global term section. So updating spec sections are really simple to do and quick. So I definitely find that as a huge benefit to using SpecLink and SpecLink Cloud.
Thanks, Greg. At BSD SpecLink, we have a fantastic team of internal specification writers that are constantly updating our system and pushing out those new standards and regulations and making sure you have the latest and greatest content in there. Let's go ahead and go to our next slide, which I know is a hot topic for everyone here, budget and time savings. Let's go around the table here and discuss maybe some tools or some trends or how you and your team are looking to save both budget and bandwidth at your organization. Devon, can we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the huge time saving is not having to use Word. I know I probably speak for a lot of people, but I would definitely have a love-hate relationship with Word documents. Mainly speaking is when you add paragraphs and delete paragraphs, it automatically reformats, where sometimes Word doesn't for whatever reason, or it automatically renumbers everything when you don't want it to. So that in itself is a huge time saver. And then, when we create a new project, trying to update and add the correct references in our master specs, took upwards of, over 5 days to do. And as I mentioned earlier, I can create a 15% level to a master spec in less than 30 minutes. And all the references are correct, depending on what bid type and construction costs are. And we're noticing we're saving time in the, when we send these projects out to bid, our procurement department normally takes, over 2 weeks to go through our entire spec package, to make sure all the references are referencing the right paragraphs and whatnot. And we're noticing that since using SpecLink Cloud, they are now taking less than a week to send these out to bid, which is huge time saving in itself there. And then it's just ease of use. The project managers will create a new project, and then they go through and set up our master spec. Anything that's highlighted green is automatically, that section has to be included. And then they just go through each section and answer questions, or they can update the global terms based on their project descriptions and whatnot, and it automatically updates all the specs and where those occur. And then they just go through where and anything marked yellow is basically saying, hey, it's telling the project manager, hey, do you need this section? Yes or no? If you need it, you just click a button and it automatically adds it. And when I transferred our Word document, Division 1, into SpecLink, I created a cover sheet, so to speak, that basically lists PMs just ask several questions, and then SpecLink updates automatically based on how they answer those questions. And if you turn off sections or turn on, sections under related requirements, it will automatically add that section to the package, and that's pretty straightforward, and it's a huge time saving.
Wonderful. Greg, anything to add?
I can add on this, definitely. The the collaboration definitely is a budget and time savings, because I shared specs through the cloud here with our partners, our AE partners, and they can comment on them right away or make changes right away. And then with track changes feature, I can review it, and they don't have to wait, or I don't have to wait until a hard copy is produced or electronic copy is produced in a PDF form that, you know, you mark up using the PDF viewer, which is not as easy to use. So it's definitely saving time and money there, just with the collaboration tools that are available with the SpecLink cloud. So this is definitely a feature that I'm very excited to use, and look forward to using it more in the future in projects.
Great. Sehine?
Muted, sorry about that. So Devon and Greg actually coined it very beautifully. I just wanted to add, there's one more feature that I thought that was extremely beneficial to us. We didn't have design criteria. Now we do. So design criteria, as you know, it really like overall looks at the I'm trying to get to like the design criteria looks the healthy and safety, amenity and comfort, healthy and safety, structural criteria, and durability criteria. So those are the things that you don't normally think about on a building. So there are statements that are there, deep of information that we were able to find that says that, hey, we want our buildings to look like this. We want the safety and comfort of our users to be this way. And so it does give you that extra feature that we thought that was very useful. And now we are proud owners of that, even though it's in a draft format. And then when we just start it, you know, we have a document, a full document. So above and beyond what Devon and Greg has said, this has also given us time savings and the basically it's well worth our time and budget that we and I was able to produce. We were able to produce these documents within a short amount of time than what a normally specifications takes, and I've done it prior in a private firm when we had to do the SpecLink E or beyond that before in the Word format. That was this SpecLink Cloud, and where we are now has absolutely paid itself 10 times more. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So if I could add one more thing.
Please.
I know a lot of our design consultants, they typically write our technical sections for us. And we typically get a Word document back from them for the final submittal. And it's really easy just to take their Word documents and import it into SpecLink Cloud, and it automatically reformats it to whatever our Division 1 spec format is, and templates and whatnot. And it's really straightforward. I just import their technical Word sections into my project in SpecLink Cloud, and then I hit a final print, and it's all done, you know, within under an hour.
Love when things are straightforward like that. We have another great question from the audience, and I will leave this open to the group to fight over who wants to respond to this one. Would you say that design criteria can be used as a high-level narrative that a building owner could use to express the design intent?
This is Greg. I can respond to that to start. Definitely. We have design criteria. We are using the design criteria feature and probably need to use it more often, because we want our specs historically at Ford were written for different rooms or different areas, and there was a combination of specs in those specific specs. So they tried to create one spec for a specific room or something, and it just gets really confusing, especially if you've got to change something in another spec section that may also be related to that spec. So with a design criteria, we don't necessarily have to call it a spec, but we can refer to specs, refer to spec sections, and really the owner, we want to have a high level. We almost want to be high level for almost everything, and then let the specs be more detailed, and let our AE partners, our architects, or engineers create those specific specs that will then meet the design criteria document that we've created. So I want to use the design criteria more. We have a bunch of them. In fact, we've taken some of the specs and are calling them design criteria now, because they were so all-encompassing and related to many specs from all disciplines that I think it's going to help clean up the specifications, and then also we'll have design criteria that will give the intent that we want to have in our facilities.
I can add to what Greg has said. As we speak again, we are using the design criteria to for the alternative construction projects at this moment, and it has proven above and beyond for us. The design criteria, as I mentioned earlier, the healthy and safety, you wouldn't normally think about preserve shrubs. You can't put preserve shrubs as much as you can in a specification, right? You can tell the designer, and then the designer is responsible. But then you also, if it's in the design criteria that you want to preserve the shrubs as much as possible, then that is also one step ahead. We use the one step ahead for finalizing or making that design requirement, or what we want the building to look like, solidified. We use the design criteria for this alternative construction method as a guide. It is, and like I said, healthy and safety is a criteria, but it's not, so we use that as a guide. So it is not limiting, but at the same time, it is also, we want to tell you what we want. So it helps us tremendously. And design criteria is very critical. Thank you.
Great. Let's go to our next, oops, went forward too many there. That brings us to our next point, SpecLink cloud functionality. Now, throughout this webinar, I know we've spoken a lot to the functionality that SpecLink Cloud brings to your organizations, and thank you, your checks in the mail. But do we have anything else that we want to add to how we're leveraging SpecLink Cloud, especially now during COVID, when we find so many of our attendees here working from home, having their coworkers work from home, everyone being remote, and finding new ways to collaborate and to try and streamline operations across your organization? I'll leave this one open to the group.
Yeah, again, this is Greg. Just the collaboration features. I was able, this past week, had a unit masonry spec section that I shared my collaboration credits with an architect, a spec writer, and she added a bunch of comments to it, and she said it worked great. She's a SpecLink E user now, and she had a bunch of comments. I received the comments right on the document, right in my project spec, and was able to reply. So I can add a reply to that, and you can correspond that way with, someone that's reviewing your specifications. Now, I only gave her commenting rights, but I could have given her editing rights as well. If I said, okay, go ahead and edit it now, that could have happened. So I'm just really, really impressed right now with the way these tools have developed, especially SpecLink Cloud, because it's making it so much easier to collaborate remotely and not have an exchange through an email or even a phone call. I don't even have a phone call. Just send an email or share a document, add your comments, and then I can review. And it's worked great.
Wonderful. Sehine or Devon, anything to add here?
I can't say enough about a SpecLink Cloud, the functionality. I used to be a SpecLink E user, and I can remember how I had to download it to a computer, and then I had to live in a server somewhere because it was it's too much. And then, I had to use that, and then it updates it. Since SpecLink Cloud, I can actually have done work on my phone, opened documents and used the documents and said, no, this is exactly what it looks like. I can share this with you. I can download it to PDF. I can download it to Word. That has always been just the functionality has been. And of course, they keep on updating, the header and the footer information. Those, tremendously helpful. And it has made our lives the last 2 years very easy. It made us look professional. That's the word I want to say, is this professional. We've got our documents together, and it looks organized. It's one document. It's by division if I want it. If it's one, one bulk if I want it. Each of them have given us the features that I want. And then not to mention the resource of information that I could check and uncheck. That is just completely blown me. That's what actually got me started on there. When I look at project specific specifications, I said, this is for the school. How about I want something better. I want something. There are other choices in this. So those are the questions that led me to SpecLink in the first place. And when I heard there were about 800 or so, and upwards of 800, and they get updated, and I researched the team that was behind the SpecLink that updates it, and the customer service, can't say enough about that. So all in all, it's been just SpecLink Cloud has been definitely a trajectory that we like where we are. Thank you.
Thanks, Sehine. And you brought up a few great points about just the difference between even SpecLink E and SpecLink Cloud functionality. And I know we have a number of attendees here that are SpecLink E users. Would love to just talk for a quick minute about some of the differences between SpecLink E or SLE and SpecLink Cloud. So Sehine or Greg, I know that both of you were former SLE users, and Greg, I think you were a SpecLink user before even E.
Yeah, definitely. No, the user interface with SpecLink Cloud is very intuitive. I was nervous going from SpecLink E to SpecLink Cloud because it looked different, and it does, and it functions differently. But it's definitely more intuitive. I'm able to add links. I'm able to add choices and choice fields so much easier now, without having to open up all these different window panes and then drag and drop stuff in. Now they're just hidden on the side of my screen. I can expand them. I can reduce them. They're all right there. It's just so much more user friendly than SpecLink E used to be. And again, I was nervous at first because it looked different, but the more and more I use it, the more and more I like using it. And also with the SpecLink Cloud, updates can happen instantaneously. And I know I talked with you, Sarah, about this previously, but it's good to see because updates are happening. And when I first started to use SpecLink Cloud, there were certain features that I wanted that weren't available, that it seemed that were better in SpecLink E, but now with SpecLink Cloud and the updates that have occurred, the functionality is definitely better. And those features I had asked for are available. So yeah, it's much better user interface using SpecLink Cloud.
Yeah, I can't add any more to what Greg said. It's exactly what I feel. It's absolutely wonderful. The ease. If you work on Word documents, definitely you can work on SpecLink Cloud. That's how I see it. And if you work on like an email interface, that's exactly how it feels. And the way it tabs over, the way it I don't know how to say the words, but it kind of it creates a family, and bringing in brand new one, customizing completely, definitely a good program.
Wonderful. And I think it really speaks a lot to our customer support team and our customer success team that we have at BSD SpecLink. Now, I know I'm a little biased being a team member, but that's what I hear all the time, is just how great the feedback has been. You call us on the phone, someone answers the phone for you, you get an actual person on the other line. Having that customer portal and the knowledge base center there available for them, just really a fantastic experience. Devon, as a SpecLink Cloud user, anything to add on the increased functionality that it's been bringing you?
That's ease of use. When we have new projects and you have to create new specs, myself and the other project managers no longer cringe. It really is super easy to use, and I can't stress this enough. We're creating specs. Doesn't take over a week anymore. I can create a spec in 30 minutes, and everything's linked. And not gonna lie, it does take some time and patience to take your master spec and input it into SpecLink. The reason I'm saying that is because I have every paragraph linked to each other. And that took some time to do. It was well worth the effort in the long run, because it's just literally 30 minutes and you have the right paragraphs selected and right paragraphs not selected or omitted, depending on the little multiple choice questions that I created in our title page for the project managers.
Cringe-free specs. I think we have our new tagline.
Yeah, every time I had to create a new project and use Word, I literally just cringed. And I said, as I'm looking out, my previous job, I was overlooking a golf course, and I said, I want to sit on that lawnmower rather than work on specs. So yeah, ease of use just is a big, and then customer support has been absolutely wonderful throughout this entire process. Either contact them through email or directly by phone, and they answer your questions almost immediately. And they take our suggestions really serious. When I first started SpecLink Cloud, I believe it just came out, and there were some things. Hey, I wish it did this. So I reached out to technical support, and within a couple months they added that feature. You don't see that very too often when it comes to software programmers.
So great to hear. Now that brings us to our next slide, something near and dear to my heart. How are you and your organization, perhaps maybe some associations that you're connected with, onboarding that next generation of design professionals? Devon, can we start with you?
Yeah, our interns absolutely love it. I've had several of them come up to me and say, "Thank you. I no longer have to use Word." I keep saying that a lot, but it's a huge deal. The interns absolutely love it. Our younger PMs absolutely love it. Our older PMs who are about to retire, they've been using Word for the last 20, 30 years, and they're kind of set in their ways. And they kind of use both. They'll use SpecLink Cloud to, first develop the master spec, and then they'll just export it to Word and use Word just because they're more comfortable with it. But again, they're using, the only way to get to the master spec is they have to download it from SpecLink, which has all the latest updates. We completely removed all the Word format of our master specs from our servers, so they are using it, and it's a lot easier.
Wonderful. Sehine?
So what we've done just recently, as I was saying earlier in our conversation, I was saying that some of the specifications are almost proprietary to PGCPS. So they probably used to live in Word document and then now in PDF, and then we actually directly imported them into SpecLink, but not quite. And so we just implemented that we're going to have a summer interns who are going to be helping us on the SpecLink information. And these are architectural students because we're in a design area. So the design and planning area is trying to recruit some architectural interns to work on specifically the planning and specification documents, and of course the design guidelines, refining them to a board approved level, and that's what we're working towards. So I'm excited. That's what we're going to have. So I look forward to working with young professionals. And specification is not that. It's not art. It is words, a whole bunch of words. So it could get interesting, but then you get into enthusiastic architectural students. That's what you're gonna get. That could get accomplished well. So we're excited that has been implemented. And thank you. This conversation actually led that to that other conversation. So that's good.
Great. Greg, anything to add?
Yeah, I can add. You think back to when you were in school and college and university, and how high tech everything was, and then when you get into the workforce, you're expecting the same thing. So that's the way I look at this: is that we want to have a high tech office. We want to be high tech because that's what the kids are nowadays coming out of school. They have all these gadgets and technology that they use. They use all these applications and the cloud and if you really want to promote and get the best of the best, I think you need to have these high-tech tools because that's what they want to use. They don't want to use Word and Excel and whatever may be, from 20 years ago. They want to use the technology of today. So that's the way I look at this.
Fantastic. Any associations that you're part of? Any continuing education certifications that are out there that you're chasing or would encourage others to chase? This is for the group. I know personally I'm a member of CSI and attend their regional conferences as well as their national events that they have. Those are always helpful for me to stay on top of the latest trends and hear from other users and some of the pain points that they're suffering from.
I can say that.
Yeah.
I can say that. Just becoming a professional in your field, whether it's an architect or an engineer, and maintaining that certification, that professional license, is critical because it helps you as you go through your career. And then also I'm LEED certified. I got LEED certified a while in the early 2000s, just because, and that really because I knew or wanted to be green because I wanted to know what it was. And then as I learned more about it, it's really, opened my eyes on things. And, specifications now can be written to be LEED certified or green or sustainable. And I think those types of certifications will help when you want to develop specs and make sure that you've got sustainability in your specs. Having that background and knowledge definitely will help.
I am part of CIPTED. I'm going to be trained as a CIPTED, with crime prevention through environmental design. And so that's a certification and training that our school system kind of gives us. And so that's coming up. And we actually, if you are CIPTED certified, And I'm looking forward to implementing that, what I learned from there into our specification to give, very, but that's something that I'm pursuing at this moment. And now, of course, LEED is another sustainability aspect that we have to comply to and use for our school systems. So that's something that we've also implemented. I'm sorry, I'm using, I'm part of, to be certified.
Wonderful. Now we're almost out of time, but I do want to address a few of the questions that we've received here. Let's see. How do you manage collaboration licenses throughout the design phase? So I know we spoke a little bit about different user preferences and user permissions, who's able to edit versus who's able to comment, being able to share those. Greg, is this something that you can expand on for us? How you manage
it's real easy, actually.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's real easy. All I do is on my project, my BIM or my BSD SpecLink project, I just have to put an email address in there who I want to share it with. And then I can either select all selections, I can have access to all, or I can select specific sections that I want them to have access to. And it's then just another simple click to whether I want to say they can view it, they can just comment, or they can edit, and then hit the invite button. So these are collaboration credits that I have as an owner that I can share with my architects and engineers that work on projects for us. It's very easy to do. And then I get a list of who I've shared projects with and which projects they're on. And I can change if I only indicate they can comment and not edit, I can change it on the fly here. So it's really simple to do. And another way I've collaborated is also just by sharing a license. So if it's a big project and it's just easier, I've actually shared a license with an architect, so they can actually work on that project, pretty much seamlessly. So it's real simple to do, real simple.
Great. Another question that we had that came in: can we create custom spec sections using BSD SpecLink? Sehine, I think this might be best question for you.
Yes, it's actually very easy. It's located right on top of. Actually, I was in the master, so it doesn't matter. But I think it was in the master, so it was right on top, and it's like I think it's term 0000. You click that, and it's basically walks you through what you want. You can rename that word, the title, what you want it to be. Of course, you would like to be part of the table of content that CSI created, right? So you want to keep that within that format. However, that that information is there, so all you have to do is just input it. It's very easy, and it's located actually on top, right on top. I think it's 0000 or something like that is what it looks like. So it's very easy.
Perfect.
And I also want to add is there's another feature that you can import this whole spec section. Import your spec section from somewhere else, and then just have it there and format. So that's also another feature that you can do.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. We are at the top of the hour. I know there are a number of questions that we received that we weren't able to get to, but please feel free to reach out either to me directly. My email is right here for everyone, schumann@bsdspeclink.com. Following the webinar, we will be sending out an email that will have a link to parts 1 and today's part 2 of the Expert Insights webinar panel. You'll also receive a link to start your free trial of BSD SpecLink. Really look forward to hearing from everyone. We also encourage everyone to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where we share the upcoming webinars. Just wanted to thank our panelists here today for taking the time out of their busy schedules especially before the long weekend coming up, to share their expertise with us, and to all of our attendees here for signing on and learning more about BSD SpecLink and how to collaborate and streamline operations across your organization. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much and have a great day.